If you want to sound smart and know what lessons are from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the book written by Robert Kiyosaki, but you lack the desire to actually go and read the book, this video is perfect for you. I recommend if you love the book, or you like to read the book. Now you can get the audiobook too, it's great, but I'm gonna sum up in just at least 4 key points that I got out of the book myself to kind of give you a basic summary and really the basic message that comes from this. And if you really understand this, and you can deepen your understanding on this, not only is it just a good entertainment type of book for you, but this could actually be something that completely changed the course of your life like it did mine. For me to be able to become financially independent at the age of 28, it started with the journey of this book. But here are the key points that I was able to take and then apply that made this work for me. Number one that you hear him talk about is that the whole traditional mindset of going to school, get good grades, go to college, so then you can get a good job, and then you save in your 401ks and IRAs forever. So then eventually you don't have to work, you can retire in your olden years and golden years. That whole thing is crap. It doesn't work. And think about it. I mean, even from your real life lens, if you look at people around you, look at your parents or anybody for that matter, that might even be farther ahead on this journey than you are. Think about it. I mean, we're told I was told the same thing, work hard, get good grades, right? My dad, he never went to college and he was working his tail off all the time. Great guy, taught me some great values, but he was trapped. He was trapped in this rat race that they talk about in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He was trapped always working, almost like constantly just going through that rat race or that hamster wheel, always running, but never really going anywhere. So he said, Chris, I want you to go to college to get that degree. Go to college, and then your life will be better than mine. Well, guess what? I went to college. Now, I did drop out right before I got my bachelor's, but it didn't take me long as I started to see the path of other people ahead of me. I said, wait a minute, even these people with college degrees, some of them can't even get a job right now. Some of them have MBAs, or have masters or even PhDs, yet they're unemployed. How is that possible? And they should be making more money. But when I looked at other people in my life, people that were like entrepreneurs or people, even professors that left being an entrepreneur to go teach later on, those are the guys I wanted to be like, the ones that actually had real life experience. And so I had to forego and just reject everything that my dad taught me to do, which freaked him out. He's like, why would you do that? Now, granted, he hardly paid a dime for me to go to college. He made me do it all. But for him, that was the security. He was hoping that. It was almost like his lottery ticket to hope that I could maybe take care of him later on by going to college and getting that degree that nobody else in our family did. But as Robert Kiyosaki points out in the book, it hasn't worked for people. People are still stuck in the rat race, even if they've got the PhD and very well educated. In fact, the whole premise of the book is about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He talked about his poor dad was actually his biological father, who was highly educated. He even was the lieutenant governor of the state of Hawaii at one point. Yet despite all the accolades, he found himself in his 50s, laid off and broke. Where his rich dad took the less certain path, but eventually, even though at one point, that guy was more broke than his poor dad was, eventually roles reversed and that guy became wealthy while his own dad never got to see that wealth. And that's the same thing I saw in my own life. My dad, same thing. He was hoping and praying that would work and never did. So that's a key thing, is that if you remember nothing else, is that doing the same old regimen that you've been taught your whole life, that everybody's been teaching you to do, especially teachers who are also broke in the rat race, telling you to do the same thing, it doesn't work. Now, number 2 lesson is that assets pay you money. They pay you money. You don't pay for them, they pay you. So important, because many people will say, my house, that's my biggest asset that I have. I've got so much equity in this house. Robert Kiyosaki's argument is, if you don't have that house paying you money, it's not really an asset, it's a liability. It's costing you money, not paying you money. And that's true for 95+% of Americans today, is that they have what they think is an asset, which is not really an asset. I would even argue retirement accounts are not an asset, because how many times have you heard people say, oh yeah, my 401k is paying me every month? No, it's the opposite. You're paying into your 401k every month, getting zero cash flow back out of it. That's like a negative 100% rate of return. And just because they throw in a match, it's like, well, is that worthwhile? That's like saying, hey, you know what? I'm gonna flush $1 down the toilet. Apparently I have really big handles on my toilet, right? It's like a Las Vegas toilet. You flush $1 down and then your employer also throws $1 in a match. It's going down the toilet. It doesn't work that way. Assets pay you money. One of the big things I remember when I was young in my mid-20s is I had a friend who was also the same age that was renting out his basement apartment. And he was using that money to help pay for his own mortgage. So his renter was actually paying his mortgage payment for him. It was actually paying down his property and giving him more of an asset. That was a good use. Even though it's not the best, it worked. I have other clients that we actually take the equity from that and go to invest it in other things. Even we buy more real estate with it. So I've had clients, client, for example, a couple out in Minnesota, that they took the asset, all that money out of their house. They took it out of even their office building, used that money to invest. And even after all their mortgage payments, they're still making an additional $280,000 a year off of that. Now their house and their office building has become an asset, not a liability. Assets pay you money. Number 3 point is that cash flow creates freedom. It's all about passive income. It's that how much passive income you actually have coming in. That's what changes your life. It's not about how much money you save up and store away like some squirrel trying to store up all your nuts in this thing called a 401k or an IRA. It's not about that. It's about creating freedom now. Passive income is that answer. 401ks and IRAs don't give you that passive income. In fact, even after you start pulling out of retirement, you really just realize you're just trying to pull out money and hoping you're not pulling out too much to where you run out of money. He reverses that mentality in the book saying, no. Passive income is what creates freedom. This is why he talks a lot about real estate or oil and gas and things like that. The very things that I have my clients do too, is that we actually have them create passive income. Because think about it. If you have a 401k, there's $100,000 in it, they're going to tell you to not pull out more than $3,000 a year. But my clients can take that same $100,000 out of their 401k and generate at least $10,000 a year and even pay less taxes than what everybody else will pay on their money. And they don't worry about stock markets going up or down, crashing left and right and all that kind of stuff. It's not about that. It's about real, consistent, regular, predictable passive income coming in. When you know that all your bills are paid for and then some, that's freedom. In fact, the thing he talks about, getting out of the rat race, is when your passive income exceeds your expenses. So if your expenses are $5,000 a month, you want your passive income to hit at least $5,000 a month to be officially financially independent or out of the rat race. Now, if you go higher, even better, right? That's what happened to me when I was in my 20s, is I all of a sudden, even as a financial advisor, I couldn't get my money working for me. I thought and hoped that if I just chalked it and just stuffed a ton of money away into these retirement accounts, if I'm lucky by the time I'm 40, I could live on $60,000 a year. What blew my mind was when I stopped doing that and started to invest for cash flow and started doing things to generate passive income. I was 28, almost 29 years old. And the next thing I know, I'm looking at my numbers and saying, wait a minute, for me to be financially independent, I only needed $3,500 a month at the time. Thank you, inflation in reverse. I only needed $3,500 a month to live, but I having $4,000 to $5,000 a month coming in. I was blown away because I said, holy cow, I didn't even need that much money to become financially free. I didn't have to wait till I was 40. I did it by my late 20s. That again, I read this book years prior to that actually happening, but when I got to apply it, it was way better. And then the fourth concept I love that he talks about, that I think is really revolutionary for a lot of people's minds, is what he refers to as the EBI Quadrant. E for employee, S for self-employed, B for business owner, and I for investor. He says that really people fall into 4 different categories, right? But only 2 of these categories create freedom, while the other 2 create bondage. You stay in the rat race. So for example, E, being the employee, like I just described, people will keep working and working, but as long as they make active income, then they're fine. But once they stop working, it doesn't work anymore. I remember I had a friend, he was on a cruise ship and laying out on the cruise ship, trying to get his nice little, middle-aged tan that he was trying to get. And the guy next to him, he starts chatting up a conversation and the guy's laying out. The guy's a heart surgeon. Now the guy makes tons of money. And he said, you know what? I make great money, but I'm actually stressed. He's like, I'm actually stressed on this vacation because while I'm on this cruise ship, I'm not making money because if I don't have my hands in somebody's chest, working with their heart, I don't make money. So he was stressed. While my other friend who was more on the B version quadrant, a business owner, was saying, I don't have to. I'm making money because my business is paying me. So that's the employee quadrant, right? And really you could even say, even if this guy wasn't an employee as the heart surgeon, he might've been S, which is self-employed. Self-employed is something where, again, you have to work to make active income to be able to survive. You don't have systems in place to always keep paying you even when you're not working. And this is where most people that call themselves business owners fall into that category. They're self-employed. They don't really have a business where it operates without them. They have to keep working that business. It's really just a nice high-paying job, but they're their own boss. But unfortunately, their boss still sucks and their boss still makes them work, because if they don't work, they don't make money. So the E and the S quadrants really are where the trap is. B is the business owner quadrant. This is where you have systems. This is where you have employees and other people involved, other people's labor, right? It's always the OPT, or other people's time, or OPE, other people's effort, that helps. Where OPM is the next quadrant we'll talk about. But being a business owner, what it allows you to do, it allows you to be able to work, but step away and allow the system to keep paying you. And that's great, but I also love the I quadrant. These are the two places I play in. The I quadrant is the investor quadrant. This is where we talk about passive income. Imagine if you could be in the B and the I quadrant. Maybe you have a business, great, and you have that paying you too, but then you also have your investments that you don't even need the B income. That's where I am today. And I had to build that over time. As I started out going from E, I was the employee in my early to mid 20s. I went to the S for several years in business. I was actually the self-employed person. And B, now that's where I've got my business now, where I can start operating because I have other people's, really their abilities to work in my favor and be able to allow this business to keep growing and going. And then I is the investments. They're getting that investments to really start paying you enough passive income. Guys, if you got nothing else out of this, just remember the ESBI, B and the I quadrants are the places you want to play in. That is where it's actually been proven to work. That's when it's been proven to create real freedom or passive income, where the other quadrants, not so much. So to recap, if you really want to read the book, this is what it comes to be. The traditional stuff of working hard, getting good grades, going to college, getting a degree, so then you can work a job for 40 years, hopefully never get laid off during that time, save in your retirement account to hopefully someday maybe be able to retire and not work when you're maybe too old to even enjoy it. That doesn't work. 2, assets pay you money. They don't take money out of your pocket like most assets do for people. They put money back in your pocket. 3, cash flow creates freedom. Passive income is what creates real freedom. Passive income, when it exceeds your expenses, then you're financially independent. That's when you can become free. And then the ESBI quadrant is number 4, not to be the employee or the self-employed, but focus on being the business owner and the investor. That is the key to freedom. That is the basic message of what Rich Dad Poor Dad is. Now, I would love to hear, if you've read the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, put your comments below. I'd love to hear what you got out of the book. What were the main things you were able to get from the book that really impacted your life? But if you like this video, check out what Rich Dad Poor Dad is missing. Find out what I believe in his book that he's not telling you, that's not getting you the results, but you can find out in this other video here. So check that out.